Alright, so I'm sure you guys have heard and have seen the news that CGC is completely revamping the way that they do trading cards. They are no longer sticking with the blue labels. They are completely changing their grading scale. So in today's video, what I figured I would do is discuss the pros and cons of this new change that they have. And then I'm going to give you guys my opinion on whether it was a good idea or if it was a mistake. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so what we're going to start off with is just going through an overview of what actually changed. So what they're doing is they're getting rid of the 9.5 label. I have one right here. So this 9.5 label, pretty much every single one of them, whether it's a weak 9.5, aka it has a 9 subgrade or not, it will be bumped to a CGC 10. The second change that they're doing is mint 9s that have subgrades that go above the 9. So basically here you can see like there's a 9, 9, 9.5 and a 10. This grade will get bumped to a 9.5 mint plus. So they are keeping something between the 9 and the 10. Everything below the 9 is pretty much going to stay the same. So if you have a 9 with subgrades that go below the 9, so like an 8 or an 8.5, that will stay a 9. It's just going to get upgraded to the new label. And then for the older CGC 10s, the so-called pristines and the perfects are getting pretty much discontinued. And then the pristine 10s are going to stay 10s. However, they're differentiating the two by giving them different labels. So before we get to the new label look, let's discuss the idea of getting rid of the 9.5 gem mint. I personally am for this change. I think when you have a gem mint card, it should be solidified as like a perfect number, like a 10 rounds the whole thing out. 9.5 gives you the impression that there's still a little bit left on the table. It's quite contradictory to the idea of gem mint. So I think 9.5 at mint plus makes a lot of sense. A 9 is a mint card, and then 9.5 is a mint card, but just a little bit better. So overall, in terms of like the grading scale, I think the change is warranted, and I think it is a pro in the overall scheme of things. Now, what I don't like is something that doesn't really have to do with the labels, but to me, the subgrades that CGC had were some of the most accurate subgrades I have ever seen. I think CGC grading in general is some of the most accurate grading I have ever seen. In my opinion, they are way more consistent than PSA. Granted, they do not have the same volume as PSA, but from what I've seen and from my grading experience, CGC pretty much nails it as long as you have the subgrades. I would always choose a CGC 9.5 with 9.5 subgrades over a PSA 10 when I'm looking at card condition. This is just me though. I know the market doesn't agree because PSA commands a huge premium, but from my expertise, from my opinion, I think CGC 9.5s with a quad 9.5 stat line is a much more consistent gem mint card than a PSA 10 gem mint. So the fact that they're removing this aspect to me hurts the brand. In my opinion, that's what was really carrying them in the beginning. I thought a lot of people loved grading with CGC because of just how consistent those subgrades were. If I took a look at my slabs and I saw 9 for edges, I would flip it to the back and I would immediately see what the grader saw when he gave it a 9. And that's what made CGC so good. It's what allowed mint 9s to have such a huge difference in price. And that's what it should be, right? Because we are buying the card, not the grade. The grade can only take you so far. At the end of the day, you need your own human eyes to judge the card condition. And in my opinion, CGC lost a lot of their, I wouldn't say credibility, I would still say they are extremely consistent, but they lost a little bit of that advantage that they had over PSA. But yeah, I think it was a huge mistake to get rid of the subgrades. If CGC wants to differentiate and take market share from PSA and not just rely on the fact that PSA is just charging a lot and they're trying to undercut them in price, you're gonna have to do something better. This is not just a commodity where you can beat the competitor in price and think that people will flock towards you. You will need to add something to make people trust you more. This is a trust-based service. And getting rid of the subgrades is a huge mistake because you're getting rid of the biggest thing that allowed the people to trust you for your grading expertise. But rent aside, I think the grading scale overall moved in a positive direction. I never really liked 9.5s. I always thought 10s should be what Gem Mint is. And if you want a truly perfect card, you have one pedigree above that. ARS has the 10 plus, CGC has the pristine 10. I agree with this. I don't think all 10s are equal, and there should be something that separates them. But I'm really disappointed with the fact that they removed the subgrades. It was, in my opinion, the only competitive advantage they had alongside the clarity of their cases. It was already something that was implemented in their system, and they decided to remove it. You're giving a lot less to the customer in this case. If PSA decides to change their cases, CGC will have pretty much nothing on PSA anymore. But anyway, let's get to the labels now. So they obviously removed the blue label and they implemented this new black frame with a white background on the inside. To me, I think that this is kind of a bad move. So it's not a bad looking label. I can't say it's ugly or anything like that, but I do think that it's a little bit generic. It looks very much like every other label that you see in, like, you know, when somebody starts their own grading company in their grandma's basement, right? It looks like the exact same label. It's just black on the outside, CGC at the top left. Replace that with any other 3-letter acronym and you'd get pretty much the exact same layout. I'm not really a fan of that, and I wish that they chose something to differentiate them a little bit more. Usually I would like color, but I understand that people were really hating on the blue slabs, so I'm guessing they had a little bit of PTSD from that. They refused to use any colors other than the neutral black and white. But I think there was many options. They could have at least put like a blue label on the border instead of, like, you know, being the background blue. It would have solidified them as a competitor to PSA. Like, you know, you have the red and the blue. It would have also allowed for that original blue color that they were really famous for to stick around and at least look similar to their other slabs in their other categories, like comic books as well as video games. But it's not ugly by any means. I just think it's generic. But what is ugly? What is ugly is the fact that they decided to take all the useless information that I appraised them for putting on the back and stick it on the front. Why? You had the perfect layout here. You had all the important information, the stuff that the collector really cares about. The collector does not care about your cert, does not care about your barcode. Why on earth would you put that on the front again? You're doing the exact same thing PSA is doing, and when I was in talks with them, they're actually trying to put the barcode on the back. So you guys basically took the faults of PSA and slapped them on the front of your labels. I don't understand that. Keep your slab for collectors. Do collectors care about the name of the character? Yes. The set? Yes. The year? Yes. The grading? Yes. Do they care about the cert number? Absolutely not. Do they care about the barcode? Absolutely not. If they are looking for it, they can just flip the card to the back and get this information. There's no reason to make your slabs look uglier by putting on all this useless information that's not really needed. And also, the barcode is the exact same thing as the certification number. Why would you put two of the exact same pieces of information at the exact same place? Like, it just makes no sense, man. They really didn't think it through. Another thing is that I honestly loved the fact that the grade was on the left side and then the name as well as all the text was centered on the right side. Now we have it in the same typewriter form. Like, again, all they did was just copy what PSA did and just add a new font and put a black border instead of a red one. You are not going to be able to compete with PSA like this. You will need to introduce something a little bit unique. You need to introduce something that gives you a competitive advantage, not just copy what the big whale is doing. At least before, when people saw the blue label, they knew right away it's CGC. Now you have to look closely at the top left corner for you to recognize it, but it's not ugly. So I have to give them props to that. I think the blue one was a little bit ugly, but I think they could have solved the issue by just making the border blue and keeping that same color tone. There's no reason to go with the black unless you're doing black overhaul on all your slabs. I really enjoyed the fact that, for example, I can put this right beside the video game, or I can put a DDS Gem Mint blue label card right beside the DDS game and have them matching when it comes to the label. Now they look a little bit different. They look like two completely different companies. But yeah, that's my long-winded and big rant on the new CGC labels. I wanted to air this video out a little bit later once I've got the whole picture. I will definitely be submitting a lot of my 9.5s to get upgraded to CGC 10s. And if you're interested, I will do a video where I send in my 9.5 and try to cross it to PSA 10. And I will also send in a CGC 10 and try to cross it to a PSA 10 and see if there's any sort of different results. If you're interested in that, Comment down below. I'll definitely get working on that video if you guys are. If you guys enjoy this type of content, hit the subscribe button, like the video. If you want to support me further, you can use strictlysealed.com to shop for your accessory needs, as well as all the links in the description. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed and I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.